difference. It means that you think that, I mean, there are strong arguments that God exists, but at the same time there might be strong arguments that God doesn't exist. So the question is about
one by one.
yes, exactly. Like, do you believe in agnosticism or do you have a agnosticism?
It has to be open to all possibilities,
C'est bon.
so that you're ready to reevaluate your religion,
You can give 2 more forms.
Can you give 2 more?
It's good if you can.
Swedish like that,
She will explain.
Hello everyone. If everyone has a paper that needs one, I could go through the questions in English. Yes. So
Excuse me, can I have a pen, please?
the first page here, part 1. One says God exists. So if you agree to this statement, you check number 1. If you disagree, you check number 6. 2 would be a higher power exists.
Other than God.
Yes, because some people, they say, no, I don't believe in God, but I believe in something abstract, a higher power. Okay? If you agree, you check number 1, disagree 6. Okay? Question number 3 is spirits or ghosts exist. There is this concept that if a person dies, there is a spirit that still exists on this earth, which is a ghost. It can live in old houses, for instance, like an ill spirit. Okay? If you agree that ghosts or spirits exist, you check 1. And if you disagree, you check 6. Now, question 4 is, religious texts guide my actions in life, like Hadith, Quran. If they guide your actions in life, you check number 1. If you don't think so, then number 6. And 5, it is important to go to the mosque in this case. If you think it is important, you check number 1. Okay? Question 6. This is a bit tricky, this question, because it's if you're not completely sure what you believe, if you believe in God or not. So it says like this. There are good arguments for God's existence, but there are equally good arguments for God not existing. So you're not sure if God exists or not. You're in limbo, sort of. Okay, question 7. It is impossible to know if... Yes? Yes, of course. Like, for instance, if I don't know if God exists or not, and I listen to these people, and you say, God exists because this and that, and you say, no, God does not exist because this and that. And I think both of them are correct. I don't know. Then I check number 1. Okay. Yes, so number 7. It is impossible to know if a higher power exists or not because of human limitations. Like, we cannot know because we don't have the capability. We cannot think that great. We don't know. Okay? So, turning to the other page. Part 2, it's about how convinced, how sure, how certain you are about your religion. So number 8 would be this. I am certain that I have the correct religion. Nothing can convince me otherwise. So if you're sure and no one can convince you that, for instance, Islam is the wrong religion, you check number 1. Okay? Number 9, I am absolutely sure that the foundation in my religion is correct. Like the core principles are correct. So if you think so, you check 1. 10. It is best to be open for all possibilities and to be ready to re-evaluate your religion.
This is not clear, excuse me. This point is not clear to me. This is number 10.
Yes, it's sort of like the other a bit tricky questions, because if I'm not sure, then I need to be open to listen. So I'm sure that I have the correct religion. I have to be open and listen to what other people say, so that I can think and, well, maybe my religion is not the best. Like, it is best to be open. Yes. 11. Sometime in the future, I will probably think that my beliefs now are incorrect. Like if you change your mind a lot, there are some people who change their mind. One day they're not religious, next day they might think of something and then they change their mind. Again, they're like searching people. So they think maybe someday in the future I won't believe in this. Yes. Then part 3. It's about justice now. The first 3 questions, number 12 to 14, is about justice in general, while 15 to 17 is about justice in your life. Yes? So, number 12. In general, people get what they deserve. So, if you agree, you check 1. And 13. It happens sometimes, it is quite common that injustices happen in all areas in life. Like injustices happen in school, at work, in family, etc. If you agree, you check 1. And 14, people try to be just when they make important decisions about other people. So, if you agree, you check 1. And now we turn from general justice to your justice in your life. So 15, in general, I get what I deserve. 16, it is common that injustices happen or can happen in my life, like at my school, at my workplace, in my family. It can happen, injustices can happen. And 17, people try to be just when they make important decisions about me. Yes. Do you have any questions so far?
The 10 should be open also because you are pretty sure and you can understand everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not only that you don't understand, so you should be open.
Yeah. And by the way, don't forget to check here at the top, at the first page. It says like you have to check if you're a man or a woman, and then how old you are. Okay. Any more questions? Thank you very much for participating.
vice versa. The coffee is in the tea and the tea is in the cup.
Interesting. Yeah, that's why it's wanted what happens in this one.
খুলছি, খুলে আসছি, নর্মাল এটা খুলে আসছি, দেখার পর দেখে গরম লাগতেছে।
ভিতরে চলো, ভিতরে
আমি তো না, আমি বাইরে থেকে যাবো।
والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Respected elders and my dear brothers and sisters, I welcome once again with the Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a question and answers time, so maybe we have very limited number of audiences, but you feel free to ask and criticize, or you can have your own query. Feel free to ask any questions that you have in your mind. We have guests, so if our guests want to enlighten something. Yes.
I have a question. You talked about the population growth in Islam as a strong point. But from what I studied, I've studied sustainability and the effect on human development. So that is usually considered a negative point. That's considered one of the reasons for the poverty in Islam, in most Islamic regions. I mean, not considering Middle East probably. But apart from that, if you look at the ancient civilizations like Egypt or a lot of Mesopotamia or those civilizations, one of the reasons was that they grew really rapidly, and the resources weren't enough anymore. I mean, from my point of view, that's a major disadvantage because you have to sustain the nation.
Yes, the brother asked one of the good question, I would say, that I enlightened in the talk, not the major part, but there's some statistics from the growing populations, that it is a sign of the future. But as you have studied in the history, because population is not all time is good, maybe sometimes is a problem when it comes to sustainability in the society or sustainability in the religion. And the brother also have given some information about the ancient Greek and Roman civilization, because when the increased number of population is there, there is a scarcity of resources, or as far I understand. So how can we balance in this side? Brother, when we say, I was giving the statistics of this number of growing population in the Western world. In the Western world, that in Norway there was an imam in a mosque, and he gives that in the Western society, average Western women gives 1.4 in average children to the society. Because we know from the society itself, is the European context, you need more manpower in order to run the system. By 2030, the expert says, the figure it differs many times, but in the European region, you need 2030, 16 million more people just to workforce in the manpowers that you have today. You have to run the system, and you need 16 million more population. So who is providing that? Culturally, Europeans, those who have this broad mind, either very few families, they took children at the late age. Very few have in the early ages. You're a psychologist, being a psychologist, I read a couple of psychologist articles that they encourage to go back to family life, because now the family concept of marriage, concept of having children in the early age is now a very fanatic phenomenon in this Western world, because people like to take children at the late age, maybe 40, 45, when they are prepared to don't have the capacity to maybe take more children. So in average, that was the figure, but that is not the reason what I say that future is for Islam. We in Islam, when it comes to scarcity and we have a big population, we have a limited number of resources. We say, look, we have an ideal concept before that. The concept is not the resources that is having the problem, but the problem is the system. Who is providing the resource for 6 billion people in the world? We have other creations. So we have other creations like the birds, the animals, the planets. So we say we have a concept of Rabb in Islam, that is our Lord. So within the definition of Lord itself, He is the sustainer, not only the creator. He gives new resources to sustain the system. So he is the sustainer who is providing us the sustenance. But we are misusing the sustenance and the resources that we have in the world today. For example, I was not giving some other examples from other sides. Because if we have a $6 billion project only to identify the origin of the world, 6 billion. Now, approximately $200 billion projects, this what you call black hole projects, project of Mars, and to find other animals besides this planet. Where we are taking these resources from to go to the planet? It is from the Earth, from the resources that we have in this planet today. Only 17% people living in the Western part, they are using 70% of the resources in the whole planets. So are we distributing the resources that we have? When it comes to wealth, Islam has a very precise, what you call, a system. Like we have a system of charity, giving 2.5% every year from the amount that we have exceed the level of 85 grams of gold. If we have that savings, we are giving. If we have the wealth, we are giving to it. So that is what I was telling, that Islam teaches us how to be generous towards the other. So the Prophet of Islam, he says, none of you is a true believer who have a full stomach and you see your neighbors are hungry. So we are giving that impressions and that knowledges to the others people, to the Muslims especially. Because if we Muslims, the resources that we have in the Muslim world today, the oil, the West is dependent on oil. The West is dependent on oil. We have the oil in the Muslim lands. When it comes to manpower, we don't have the skilled manpower that we want to, but we have the manpower. We have to transform these human resources into a skilled resource. If we can skill the people, what we have today, 1.6 billion Muslims. Look, when the Muslims come in the western part of the world, they are contributing to the scientific resources. They are contributing to the labor market. They are contributing to the system of the world. So not that we have a problem what we see or what the people want to see, like the UN or WHO, that human being is a problem for the resources. Actually, we find in Australia, I was seeing young kids, they took a banner, pamphlets in their chest. We are the tax saviors of our parents, encouraging people to have more children. Because in this part of the world, we have less population. And the growth of population is minus in the Western region, most of the region in the world. But we have that kind of solutions to our problem. We say we have a planning for our family. We don't see this problem that we don't have resources, because we are not the one who is making the resources. According to United Nations, I would like to give this figure, 43% of the cultivated land we have in the world today is still useless. 43% we can cultivate. And if we employ the modern technology, from the same amount of land where we have the production of once in a year, we can make it 3 times in a year. The crops, the foods that we produce in one particular area of land, once in a year. Many countries, we use just the land for 1 time. But if we use the technology, we can have a product at least 3 times from the same amount of land. And 43% land still is useless, which can be used for cultivation. That is cultivated land we have. We are not producing, we are not using. Sweden was giving us statistics about Kupunsan last year. They have spoiled 11,000 tons of foods, the regular foods. Now, where is these resources we are spoiling? So we have to think rationally, that we have resources. If we just put a barrier that we have resources, now what problem we have? Problem is implementing the system. Using the resources is the main problem. So are we giving priority to the people we have as a neighbor country? Or in Africa we have problem, in Sudan we have problem. What contribution as a human level we are giving to them? Or are we taking the resources and using just to satisfy our, our needs, our imagination, our scientific resources, which maybe give some benefits to a marginal level of people, not as a people as a whole. You understand the point of views? So we say, look, this amount of resources that we are using, maybe we have a wise proposition to balance. We have a priority list. What comes priority basis first? So it is the human we should give priority, because we are dealing with the human. Those who are dealing with the resources, they have enough now. Now, can we share the resources, or can we educate the people to make more resources? Because we don't know what are the resources still in the earth, still in the planet, how much resources we have. Scientific community may give us a limit. We are going to, they give this impression that within the next 50 years we will have no oil. So what you do? So preserve the oil. This is not the case. 50 years before, we don't know how much oil do we have. And who is giving this oil in the earth? Who is giving iron in the earth? Who is giving the sustenance to the birds? The birds, the animals. We say none of us is contributing to them, but it is the Creator who is sustaining the creation. So we give that creation to Him, the sustenance, that thing's up to Him, but we manage. Are we managing these things properly? Because He gives us to manage, not to give sustenance. Because we are not the one who sustain you or any other human being. No scientific community is giving sustenance. But some of their scientific community is contributing to use it in a proper way. Most of them is using that resources just for their satisfaction. That is what we say. In Islam, we have a priority level. So we have to understand this philosophy. In the early Greek, they have a problem of management. Now in this part of the world, Sweden needs more children. Their educational institutions are empty now. They're telling that in terms of next 5 to 10 years, because the growing number of children, 15 to 25 years, is very less in compared to the other. The older people is aged too much, and they have a very big gaps of the aged people who will, I would say, the people who have more experiences people. So we have to see this agenda, that what are we planning, what are we doing? Are we satisfying the agenda of the others, or do we have an agenda to plan our family, to plan our resources that we have? I was surprised to see one of the videos. There is a family still today in America. They spend $1 every day. They say this is $1. How can they manage with that amount of resources? So they have a planning. You have to limit yourself in order to. But we can see, I use a mobile of 3 years old, 4 years old before. But now we have mobile, people just throw mobile and then get another mobile. So we are misusing the resources that we have. So how much do we need is now the agenda. So what we say as Muslims, we have a wise proposition to choose. We are here to organize the system. We are here to invent new things for the service of humanity. So are we doing that, or are we busy with something that is not beyond our part? Because we are not giving life to the dead. We are not making something new in the world. That is what is called nature. But we are using the nature, what is already a resource, for our benefits. So we say yes, we can take natural resources and we can benefit ourselves. The other part of the world, they are not using this solar system that you have, the wind power, energy. We need to contribute that. If we say that, look, in Bangladesh, people are telling you have a huge population and that's become a problem. What problem? Why not the politician raise the problem of the corruption in the politics? Why not the people finding the problem in India that, look, poverty is not the problem that we are seeing, but there is other problem within the politicians because of the corrupted politics. They don't have a very long strategy. Like in China and India now, they are fighting who will oversee the most powerful nation by 2020. Why? Because of the population that they have. Because they have one product, they have immediate customers. So now how they can manage, this is our agenda. We say, look, how much capacity this earth have, we can predict we have 9 billion capacity. After that, what will happen? This is not the agenda, because we are not the creator of the earth. We have to be very precise. As a Muslim, we say, look, we plan. Because we are not sustaining anything in the planet. Everything is precise. Who is sustaining? It is our creator. Who is providing us sustenance? It is our creator. So are we misusing the resources that we have? We say reasonably yes, in some cases, not all cases. So we say, look, we have a wise proposition to use the resources that we have. If we can do that, and if we can implement the spirituality that we have, not the spirituality in the personal context, but in the social context, political context, educational context, coming to innovation, something new, then we can see how the system will run. So we enforce the law of the Creator to implement so that we can achieve peace. That is what is requirement. And population is not a bane for the society. is a boon for the society if we can use the population in a skilled and organized manner. So that is what we want. I hope that I give some of it, but not that all what we want. Thank you. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
No, I was just, I don't know, if not really a question, but it seems like there is a lot of potential, I would say, within Islam and of the Abrahamic religions of doing a lot of good for the earth, since it is like it is a gift from God, and showing that you appreciate this gift. Like you should never mistreat God's creation. And I think there's a lot of potential for doing good, like environmental work, for instance, within Islam.
Yes. Sister, it's not questions, but it's more of comments, and I appreciate the comments. That there is too much to learn from the Abrahamic traditions. We know that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, it has claimed to be originated from the Father Abraham, peace be upon him. So Father Abraham, when it comes to the principles of using and not mistreating the creations of the Creator, Islam and the principles of religion, of this Abrahamic religion, has a very good moral and the values to use the system of environment, system of the natural resources that we have. Yes, obviously that is what is religion for. We understand in terms of our ways that Abraham, peace be upon him, he was the father of our religion, the religion of Islam, as the Quran says in several places. In the second chapter, chapter 2, verse 132 to 136, and then in the fourth chapter, 124, 125. He was the imam, as an elected, as a leader appointed for this generation. And then still today, you know, the last week before, 2 weeks before, we had a pilgrimage in Mecca that was to celebrate the festivals of the memorization of Abraham and his son Ismail, their sacrifices, peace be upon them both. So that is how we contribute, we understand the context of the religious things within the text, within the context itself. God says, look, I have given everything in the second chapter, chapter 2, verse 25 to 28. Arda Jami, this earth, whatever He gives in this planet or these creations, it is everything beneficial for this human being. Because humans have been given the most highly intellect. Scientific can claim that there are more intellectual animals living in this planet, but we claim that human beings are the most intellect creations by the Creator. Now He has given everything what is in the earth for our purpose, for our benefits. So we emphasize the scientific community, the people who are using the resources in the community, so that we can make the best benefits of the resources that we access most. Islam teaches us how to share the resources to the others. Look, when we have wealth, too much, more than 85 grams of gold, that is approximately 27,000 krona. If we have more than, we give 2.5% to the others who is needy, who don't have food. We contribute to humanity, irrespective of whether Muslim or non-Muslims, because it comes that we have a same origin, I and you, from the same great-grandparents, Adam, peace be upon him. But then we divide into nations. It's a long history and periods. So now we say, look, he is my brother of humanity. We are our brotherhood of faith, but they are our brotherhood of humanity. The Quran uses the term Ya Ahlal Kitab, O people of the book. You know, it is giving us an indication that they are also a part of the book that which was revealed before. Now what we are doing, so God says, whatever you have, do not create mischiefs on the land. In the 205 verse of the second chapter, that do not create mischiefs in the land by destroying the things that I have given, the crops, the cattle, the progenies you have, but you use it in an organized way. And the knowledge that we have in the world today, whatever good things we have, it is from God. Whatever the achievement that we are making today, everything, whether done by Muslims or non-Muslims, it is a contribution, the knowledge God wants for the benefit of the mankind. So we say that we have a wise proposition. We have suffered for a long time, the past 300 to 400 years, because of the complex political system of the world, the aggressiveness of power, using the power of dominations. But now we are now splitting. So we have to now restore these values and principles from the religion itself, no matter what religions we belong to. We encourage Christians to be more Christians, to study the Bible, and to practice the principles of the religion, because it's much more closer than in differentiate. We differ in a very few things, but there are much more common things we have in the religion itself. Look at India now. For 1,000 years we Muslim ruled, but now it's we tend to look at it as Hindu areas, or the people who are vast majority practicing Hindu religion. But they have also some norms and values within the discipline of the religion. So that is what God commanded us to use the resources that we have in a wise way. So I appreciate your comments. That this is what we want others to understand. As a psychologist, maybe you have high capacity to control the people and to clean the people's brains, what they have in their mind. But we as a theologian or a philosopher, we try to portray the messages that we understand most, and we use our own intellect to give understanding to the others, so that we benefit from the knowledge that we have by sharing and contributing with others. I hope, inshallah, if we can make these efforts more and more, we can establish a society of much more beneficial for the others and also for ourselves. Yes, brother, you have it.
I was thinking why, just a general question, like maybe she wants to, like why is the pork and alcohol is not allowed in Islam?
Why?
Absolutely. I mean, most of the cases, yeah.
The brother will ask a question on behalf of the sister, that why in Islam alcohol and pork is not allowed to consume. To answer the questions, we now live in the present world, that is we call as scientific world, the technological world. We have so much resources in the scientific community which we can verify. If alcohol is being a product of the present time, I would rather say, along with WHO, World Health Organization and others, every country would ban this product if it is an invention of the recent time, because there is not a good results for the consumption of alcohol. I was just having these papers of yesterday from BBC. No, this is from BBC. Passive smoking killing 600,000 every year. Not the direct smoking, but the effect. And it's written here, approximately 40% children are dying. About 167,000 children are dying every year because of the impact of tobacco or the smoking. Now, this is a drug. What is alcohol itself? So we say, look, a very simple example. I will not go back to the theology, because religious terms, almost all religions forbid consumption of alcohol. Quran says in the 5th chapter, Surah 5, verse 90, that innamal khamru wal maisur, khamr, intoxicant and gambling, dedication of a stone and fortune telling is all prohibited for a Muslim. Christianity says the same. The Bible in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 1, it says, be not drunk with wine. And book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 18, God Almighty is supposed to tell in the Bible that those who drink wine is a mocker, and be not drunk with wine. Straightforward, be not drunk with wine if you are wise. But now, in the Hindu scripture also, I can quote these scriptures, Manusmriti, the law of Manu. So for religious people, we have a religious principle from our text. It says you have to follow the principles. Now, as a social human being, we say, look, come at the context of the social context. In the world today, how many people are dying because of the impact of alcohol? What are the consequences of the impact of alcohol? Last month, in Sweden, Health and Science Research Institute of Sweden, they published a report. 150 billion Swedish krona have been spent for the cost of alcoholic accident and risk. The result of alcohol, how much consequence it has done for the last 5 or 10 years. It has 150 billion to provide the cost of the hammering of alcohol. Now what is the result? The youths, they're making accidents in the streets, demolishing their own principles. They don't have these values. now. They're losing. WHO prescribed this, that in the World Health Organization they published it. Even a minute amount of alcohol, it causes the damages of the brain. If you ask any medical doctor, they will tell us that, look, consumption of alcohol, it may have a minor significance of good things in your body, but socially, culturally, and in a natural consequence, the result of alcohol is just collapse of the civilization. We have many accidents due to the consumption of alcohol. Many diseases now due to the consumption of alcohol. Most of the time the diseases associated with alcohol, what we get in the end result is nothing but, as the Quran describes, is a handiwork of the Satan. What we see now as a responsible human being, maybe if you have a driving license, you want to drive a car. So you picked up the car and you start driving the car. If the traffic policeman would caught you and you have drink even a minute amount of alcohol, and if it is found on you that you have drink just before, or you have the intoxicants in your mouth, or if you drink it before, they will immediately cancel your license. We can reasonably ask why these policemen are forcing us not to drink alcohol. Very sensible reason. Because you will bang up the car, you will lose your life, and also you will cause damage to the others. So being a responsible human in the planet, we say we have to use our intellect. Why are we consuming a product which we lost our balance? Alcohol, it touches the inhibition, the thinking capacity of the human. You will not urinate in front of us, but when you drink alcohol, you lost your thinking. 13% of the Americans, they cohabit incest, relations, sexual relations with first blood, meaning your daughters or your sisters or your mothers. Most of the time the consequence is because of alcohol. Sweden, as it was slammed by Amnesty International last year, 30,000 rapes took place in Sweden. 30,000. Such a country who exonerate women in the rights of women's rights. Most of the cases, one of the reasons they give, along with others, because of the highly consumption of alcohol. Some people say, look, we consume socially, very small amount every week. Very small amount every week. If you ask a smoker, which is smoker, or who is a drunkard, drunkard means completely drunkard. How he started beginning, started with a minute amount, and then now he becomes a full drunkard. In America, Jimmy Swaggart, he gave a roughly estimation that about 75 million drunkards in America. Among those, 45 million are heavy drinkers. 20 million, they have used different terms. Problem drinker. 11 million, social drinker. So you have category: social drinker, problem drinker, heavy drinker. It's all the same. What is the result of that? Suffering from many diseases. You have to spend the social, insurance system, and to earn and to take money in order to medicate yourself in the hospitals, or you lost your life because of alcohol. You fight with others. I saw many accidents in the streets. What is this going on? We are civilized now. We have to think, is there any benefits of this product itself or not? The government is trying to increasing the taxes. For what? For taxes, or for what? Because they can earn revenue. The people who run the business of alcohol behind, they know that if we can control the people, how we should control the people? Then to control them with this kind of drugs. So alcohol, you cannot use alcohol in any industry while you are working. Why? Because it loses your conscience. So we have to think rationally that what is the reason of banning the alcohol as a religious context. Religious comes as a solution to the problem of mankind. People cannot make a system, no politicians would immediately ban. Because in Sweden, you'll be amazed to know the statistics. 1/3 of the populations are a regular customer of the bar, because you have a monthly card or yearly card to go to bar, because you don't have to pay a big amount to enter the bar if you are a registered customer. 1/3 and approximately 3 million. Now in Australia the numbers are 20,000 only. Now we have to see that who are the people running this business behind. We are taking and consuming alcohol. We have many problems, maybe we neglect the problem. But who are we giving the benefits most? 1/3 to half of the income that a Swedish earn every month, those people who go to bar and drink, they spend on this alcohol consumption and drug consumption only. The doctors are telling the pregnant women not to have more than 1 glass, but at least have 1 glass. Why can't they say, look, stop this product, we stop propagating this product, we stop licensing these products, because there is no good in it. So religious, it comes as a feedback for the solutions, because politicians think for their votes. If I say no today, I will lose 3 million voters tomorrow. So we say, look, we have to understand, we have a higher value that is called peace. When I am intoxicated myself, and I am demolishing something, stealing or beating someone, or destroying someone's property, or banging up the car, losing my self-respect and self-conscious, causing accident, making and breaking the laws, breaking the system. This is what we Muslims don't want. We say, look, we have a higher priority to give priority to the Creator. This microphone, those who created it, He knows we cannot put it in the 100-degree temperature or 1,000-degree temperature because it melts. If we put it on the ice, maybe it loses some of its function. It has a pure guidelines. So the Creator of human being, He prescribed the guidelines. So the Quran says in no less than 4 different places. And finally the prohibition comes. God says this is a handiwork of Satan. So stop this abomination of khamr, alcohol. Many Muslims come across, they say, look, we can have a small amount. So the tradition of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, it is mentioned in Sunan Nisai. There is a book called Sunan Nisai. And Ibn Majah, in the book of intoxicant, we have a separate chapter called Book of Intoxicant. And there are about 20 hadith or narrations from the authentic narrations of the Prophet. And hadith 3371 to 81 and 92, it gives a clear indication that alcohol is the root, is the mother of all evil. And Prophet ﷺ says, our Prophet, peace be upon him, says that any amount of alcohol, either a drop, a small amount or a big amount, is forbidden. Any intoxicant, not alcohol, any intoxicant is forbidden for the believer to take. And there is a big list, 10 people who produce alcohol, who carries alcohol, who buy alcohol for himself, who buy alcohol for others, who consume benefits by selling this alcohol, who helps it to carrying it. All these 10 categories of people have been cursed by the Creator and by the angels, and they all will have to pay the charges in the hereafter, in the final day of judgment. So that is why we say that, look, if we see the consequences from the expert reports, not only WHO, American Health and Science Research, Swedish Health and Science Research Institute, even European Health Science Research, European health reports, alcohol is demolishing the principles of the society. It is a it has a big impact to destroy the house. You know, the divorce rate are increasing. One of the reasons is because of this consumption of alcohol. The house is demolishing. So people only losing money because of this alcohol. And the other intoxication are linked behind. Many crimes. Why the crimes are increasing? Violent crimes. Because you lose your capacity of thinking wisely. Brutal murder is going on. Why? We understand as human level. So we should look. If you go back to Medina, when this verse was revealed in Medina, on that city, there is no alcohol in, because 1400 years before, we just kicked all the barrels of alcohol in the streets. Now there is not a single person who is suffering of this problem of alcohol. We don't have to think about it. When it comes to the issue of pork, I would just make a fun of it, because I was just discussing with a couple of Europeans here in the Chalmers, discussing. We have a couple of Chinese, a couple of Swedish. They were making jokes. Come on, man. Are you a fool? We about 100 million, more than 100 million European. We are attached to pork. Do you think, are we fool? So the Chinese, he make a good reply. So he is a Chinese. He make a good reply. He said, look, do you think the Chinese are fool? So the Europeans, especially the European subcontinent, along with Swedish, they were shocked that, what do you mean by that? So that's why. He said, we eat dogs and cats. Why don't you eat dogs and cats? Are you fools? So we have to understand what is the reason of forbidding the ban of taking the meat of the pork. The same verses in the Quran, 4 different verses. Chapter 2 verse 173, chapter 5 verse 3, chapter 16 verse 115, chapter 6 verse 145. Hurrimat alaykumul maitatu wa dahmu wa lahmu wal khinzir. The Arabic word used here for khinzir is mean the pork. So the Creator says, forbidden for you, the foods are the blood. Blood is forbidden, any kind of blood. Blood, dead meat, the animal that killed, or you find some animal which already dead, you don't know how it dies. And then the flesh of swine, and any other food that is served to any other person besides the true God. If you slaughter an animal by the name of, like the pagan culture, the name of a sun god or a moon god, or you serve this to idols, the meat, maybe a lawful animal, but we don't have this kind of foods we have. Why? The Prophet of Islam, he gives another prohibition. Any carnivorous animal like tigers, dogs, cats, rats, field animal, the hawk, some kind of birds, the crow, sharp birds who prey, and these kind of animals like carnivorous animal, we are not allowed, we are forbidden to take. Because we say we have a principles of eating, of sleeping, we have a principle, we have a guidelines. So what we eat, it has an impact. I would like to go now to the scientific community. When it comes to Bible, if you're a Christian, I don't know, you know in the Bible it's already forbidden to consumption the meat of the pork. In the book of Deuteronomy, in the Old Testament. In the book of Deuteronomy, simple, chapter 7 verse 8 and 9. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 11 verse 7 to 9. And book of Isaiah, chapter 65 verse 2 to 5. That the flesh of pork is given very precisely. That this is a field. Do not even touch the flesh of the swine.
Yes.
Yes, sister. I will come after that, after when I finish the answer. So why? And we know when it comes to New Testament, the Gospel of St. Mark, Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, he killed 2,000 pigs just to heal one man. So this is what is the religious context. Even the Hindu scripture I can quote and mention the verses, it forbidden. Because why it is forbidden, now we come to know the scientific reasons maybe. When we ask a medical doctor, we have the problems for other meat also, but what is the problem with the pork? Strictura stricturasis, one of the diseases from the ova, the female eggs of the pork meats. We have plenty of lawful animals in the world. Why we are only to consume these products? The swine. The people sometimes claim, we Muslims claim, look, this is a filthy animal. The people say, look, we in Australia, they made research because we know what pig eats. It eats its own excrete. What it excretes, it eats itself. You know, the dung of the animal. If it does not find any other animal, it just excretes itself and it consumes that. You know, do you eat your dung? But this animal, this is the only animal which the scientific community described as a natural cleaner. In the early time, we don't have this sanitary system, so they had this pig. So they all left the pigs, people excrete, and the pigs clear all this. Natural cleaning. It cleans everything, so you don't have to worry about it. So God created this animal for a purpose. Maybe there are other purposes also. But now the scientific community, they did research. Then look, it creates a problem of hypertension. The food that we eat, it has a high level of cholesterol in the pork meats. And 50% of the Americans in the survey says they are suffering from hypertension. And WHO, they give a very, very prescriptions or what you call guidelines to consume the meat of the pork. They say, look, you have to cook it in a high temperature of this and this amount of time. Because they made a research in the American Health Institute of 20 people. They thought that early scholars, the scientists, that the female eggs of the pork meat, it dies maybe 100-degree temperature. But they found they make 20 people to consume for a long time from that cooked meat of the pork. After that, they found that these female eggs of the pork meat, it does not die. So there are other diseases along associated with the pork meat. We say, look, we have other lawful animal. The pig is the only animal, by nature, it invites the other people to have sex with his own partner. Now in America and the Western world, we find this sickness also, because some community of the scientific community, they say what you consume, it has an impact of your nature. So people are now going to cheating.com or dating.com, what you say in the website. The couples are inviting other couples to have sex with their couples. So this is what is going on in the hearts and minds of the people. This may be a cause from the consumption of meat from the pigs. We say, look, why don't you people eat the meat of the dogs or the cats? Because you have a reason, maybe the emotional reason, maybe the scientific reason. So we encourage the scientific community to do far more research on these things and find out the reason why. We say in Islam we have a guideline and principle. We follow the God's law. By our eyes we can see, okay, these are the immediate consequences. That this is a filthy animal. We cannot eat everything what we have today. So this is a filthy animal. By nature it's a filthy. And it eats its own dung. If it doesn't find the other excretes, it excretes itself and it eats the dung. So we say, look, we have lawful animals, the cows, the sheep, the goats, the chicken. So we have plenty of resources that are available and they are giving us benefits. So when we slaughter those animals, those who are lawful, we have fish in the sea. The whole sea is subjected for us as a food. Every kind of fish we have as a food. We have guidelines of eating the birds also. Not all birds we can eat. So that is the guidelines. If you go any institution, it has a guidelines. Why? Because the people or the management who knows the system, they set up the law so that they can run the system. So God knows what is best and what is good for us. So that is why Quran says in the second chapter, chapter 2, verse 168, eat all lawful and good things which I provided for you as a sustenance, and do not eat something which is unlawful. And do not follow the footsteps of the devil, because the devil is your clear enemy. So that is why we say, look, we have a reason, religious reason, we have scientific reason. Maybe for some it is a reason. For us, we say our ultimatum is God, but we have a scientific reason behind. We can avoid WHO because they are the people who are the authority on this field. We have many other reports. It's a personal choice people make, but we have a choice to submit our will to the will of the God. So we say, by God's will, we can have this meat. Under compulsion, or if your life is in danger in the middle of the sea or middle of the jungle, you have an option to eat anything that is unlawful just to save your life. But again, you have a choice, because if you don't eat something, you don't eat chili too much. Because I don't find Swedish, they eat chili too much. You will start crying. Why? Because you have a food habit from the long time. So we say, look, in our country we eat lots of spicy. You will not be able to take it. So same reasons. When we see the meat of pork, we speak, this is a filthy, dirty meat. We don't eat that. Religiously, it's a forbidden. So we have other reasons also. We balance with science, we balance with logic and reasons, and then we say, look, God knows best because He is the creator and He is the one who should guide us. So we submit ourselves and we follow that principle. I hope that I try to illustrate the answer. Yes, sister.
Yes, about the pork again, and about the will of God, because since I don't come from a Muslim family, but when I hear this and I try to imagine how life must have been in Medina or in Mecca or what is the geography,
Saudi
Arabic Peninsula.
yeah, exactly. I think, okay, they're on their caravans, they need to bring food with them. The nomadic people, basically. And what they could do, they could have dates, for instance. They could have with them chicken that were living at the time, and when they camp, they could cook these, and it's very fresh. But they cannot bring, for instance, pork, because it gathers a lot of bacteria. So, and they cannot, of course, they cannot bring raw chicken or something like that. It would be very hazardous. And I understand that it's not a wise thing to eat a dead animal. It's, of course, it doesn't like seem very good for you. So when I heard about this, I think like, what is the will of God? Is it the fact that you should eat something fresh? If that is the underlying principle of this, ideally, then I find it hard to not eat pork if it is very clean. If the pig, for instance, of course, doesn't eat its feces, if it eats good, like pellet food, and if it's like in a fresh environment, and it is slaughtered in a good way, then I wouldn't, in my way of thinking, I wouldn't disobey God's will, because God's will is eat something that is good for you and fresh, clean, like that. If I interpret this in the context of the Arabic Peninsula at the time the laws were written. So
the sister asked the questions, very brief illustrations. When we go back to the background, we see, look, apple is not mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith. Banana is not mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith. Prohibition is a selective prohibition given in the Quran and the Hadith, very selective. By name, it's mentioned. So when we say khinzir, it refers to the swine, flesh of swine. The swine itself. The swine is too filthy inside of Islam. Islam used the Arabic word najis, that is impure, najis. So when we say there are two kinds of impurity, a male cannot wear the golds and the silk, but the gold and silk is not impure. You understand? But the swine itself is an impure. So the God says the Arabic word, eat all lawful and good things, lawful and good. Lawful, what lawful? He has already made prohibition of the pork and the dead meat. So if I say, look, this meat is dead, but I make a scientific research, okay, this has nothing to do with unhygienic, this is bacteria free, this is everything, I find it good, I eat it. Whose will? We say, look, it is not our will, we are not deciding. Who has to decide among ourselves what to eat, what not? The Creator who created the things, He has prescribed. He created everything for a purpose. And He prescribed the guidelines. You eat the lawful things unless there is an exception which I made prohibition. Because this is a test. We may find 100 good things in the pork, but God says you cannot have it. Why? God knows best. But God gives some reasons. We find in our intellect by using it, yes, we find some reasons of it. In the Arabic Peninsula, 1400 years before, because that was not the prohibition. I mentioned the Bible, 600 years before the Arabic Peninsula. They can carry lots of foods, but the Bible is prohibition. In the Old Testament, during the time of Abraham, peace be upon him, because he was a messenger. All the messengers were sent by God. Why God sent this animal? He is sending other millions of animals. Why the crow is here? Why the hulk is here? Why the dogs and cats is here? We can understand the purpose. They are reasonable. They are the livestock, or they are animal. There are some domestic animal. There are some animal who are very, very angry animal, like tigers, the lions. We can think, okay, lion is good, and we will have it missed. Because in our religious principle, it is forbidden to have this carnivorous animal who eat the meat of the other animal. For example, I give the example of human digestion system. If you see the digestion system, I have a friend. If you see the digestion system of the pork, of the swine, you see the digestion system, they have the same digestion system like the human. They can consume herbivorous, the grass and the others, the vegetables, and they can also consume the meat. We human beings have the same. Another animal, if you have a cow, it only can digest the grass, the herbivorous plants and other things. It cannot digest a meat. You will never find a cow will eat any meat except the dog. Dog, it only can have, or lion, it can only have the meat, because the digestion system, it creates like this way. So the digestion system of the pork is also created like that way. And God has given us the other reasons to see. Look, this is a meat we consume is for nutritious purpose, is for energetic purpose. Because the scientific community says pork has a lesser amount of nutrients or energy that we want than in compared to other, like chicken, like cows, like the camels and the others. So we have to see in context. What we see or appears before us as a clean. Okay, if you make an experiment, let the pig to eat only the good things. But this is his nature. I told you in Australia they make a challenge. Okay, we will let the pig to stay in a high mountain, not to have excrete of the other animal, but it excrete itself and it eats its own dung. How you stop that? We cannot, because it is his nature, the Creator who creates the nature of that animal, and he makes a prohibition before. We say in our human capacity, we didn't have all resources. We don't have all resources. Why all these things are here? How much these things benefit us? Maybe we have some information. We say God knows best because He is the one who created. We say we follow when we see something is there in the Quran and something there in the Hadith. When it comes to consumption of alcohol, it takes a scientific community for a long time to discover the impacts of the consumption of alcohol. Now it is making an effort for the scientific community to discover the effects of the pork meat behind. Maybe in future you will find that there are more harmful things in the meat. So then you will make the prohibition. Or maybe you will fear to prohibit it because millions of people take it. So we say, look, we have a principle before who knows the best. And we say we follow and we obey. So we have to see, sister, that what is good for us, maybe God says, because for a man, gold, how? It is not impure. And to touch gold is not impure. But God says we are not man, we are not allowed to do that. Why? We say we follow that. For a sister, that gold is there. For silk, the sisters are there. It is lawful for them. But for sister, there is other prohibition. The female are not allowed to use perfume when they go abroad. So we say, look, we have a balance. It's not separations, but there is a reason, psychological reasons behind. A man is attracted to the society much more. So maybe the amount of gold that we wear, it will create a problem for some others to hijack us. God says that we leave it. So in terms of other consumptions of food, of having dresses, making some things as a choice of us, if we see something good, we first see there is a very simple list of prohibition in Islam. Very simple. Lawful, plenty. No list. Lawful things, plenty. Unlawful things, very selective. If we have a boiled coffee or tea, do we drink the boiled coffee or tea at a time? No. We soup it for a long time so that we consume it properly. It helps us, not it boils our throat. So we have a system of human thinking. But God, when He says something, He has a higher reason for this. So He mentioned the name khinzir no less than 4 times. That this is prohibition. Dead meat, prohibition. Blood. Now there are people who drink blood, you know that. There are people who drink blood. We say, look, he may found something good on it, but in the long run it will find something which is more difficult. How as a human we drink blood? Because blood is a very good transmitter of germs and bacteria. There are diseases. Why there are new diseases in the world? Because of so many things. You know, the swine flu last year, it's not from the pigs, but it is an origin of the animal. So the messenger, peace be upon him, he says in the hadith that the days will come when the people will see the diseases of the animal will associate with the human. Where it originated, the HIV, we know the origins from monkey and others. Thousands of years we live with monkey, but when we lost the morality, then it becomes some diseases. So maybe the pork meat, it will carry some diseases in the long run. We see 50%, more than 50% American hypertension because of the consumption of the pork meat. So we have a regulation how to cook it, how to. There are plenty of others lawful. Who decide lawful? God, not we. Yes, banana is not mentioned. We find it good. Okay, we take it. But what God forbids, we say we don't take it. You understand? Very simple. By name is mentioned, so we say we don't take it. If by name other things are mentioned, we say we don't take it. Because the lion, the carnivorous animal is mentioned in the hadith. So we say we don't take it. Maybe you find good in dog. You know, Chinese, they found good in dog's meats. They are eating. So I tell you the jokes. So we are not fooled because the God who creates, He is not fooled. He is the wisest one. He knows the reason. We say, look, we follow that. So on that level, I think that we as a human level, when we think something, we have to see the reason behind. If God forbids something, we have no choice for our views in Islam. If we contradict the views of God, then that is our choice, not the will of God. Then it's not submission, then it is something contradiction within ourselves, within the definition. So we say, look, we don't go on that because we have a reason to follow that. And we find other lawful. If we omit 5 animals, we have 500 and 5,000 animals which are lawful for us. There are plenty. You know, the cows, the high production, goats, high production, the sheep's high production, the camel, high production. We go for it. Chicken and other, we say we go for it, and we don't think about which is unlawful. So I hope that in the simple illustration. I try to explain, but there are other reasons also. Even we are not allowed to use the skin of the pigs because it's considered to be najis, the impure. Every product from the pig is considered to be impure. Now, how to prove impure? Science may not find impurity on it, but we have a religious impurity, and that is our norms, our values and principles. So, the skin of the tiger and the lion, we can make a shoe or we can have a coat, no problem in it, or the deer. We can have. That animal is also unlawful, but not impure itself. Pigs is defined as an impure itself. Every portion of it, meat, blood, skins, or any bones and everything. Every product of meat of the pig is forbidden for us. So we say we are restricting, and God knows the best. When we say we don't know anything as a whole context, we say we define it, explain it, and we say God knows the best. So that is the answer I try to explain to you. I hope that answers your question, sister. Yes, if you have any more questions, so we take a long time. I hope you understand, sister. So.
Yeah. It was funny the thing you said about the Alps. I mean, maybe it's impossible to. I mean, even if you put it in a secluded place where there's plenty of food, it might even eat its.
No, it's nature. It's nature.
It's
they made
nature.
an experiment.
Yeah.
They made all in Australia. They give all good foods that it can eat. But what happens, because habit is the second nature. If you are habituated with something, then it becomes your nature. We don't teach the pig to eat. It teaches by it. It has a program in the mind. We don't teach a bird how to eat or how to fly or how to catch its food. It is already programmed by the Creator. The bee, the bee, honeybee. That is the best example. Honeybee, the Quran gives the example of no less than 70 examples. Honeybee is the only animal living in the planet which only consumes all good things, and it gives, the only animals gives products, it produces product for the human. That is the honeybee. So it eats all good flowers. There is scientific research. Von Francis in America, he made a research of this bee and how its behaviors. And you see, the bees only it consumes it goes to the flower which is good flower, not the bad flowers. It does not consume anything that is bad. Who makes these things in the mind of the honeybees? The creator of the bees. And when the bee left one flower, he is also smart. He don't want other bee to come the same flower. So he made a mark on it, the flowers. So the other bee can see, okay, this is already done. The honey has already taken by the another bee. And it remains for a certain time. Next day it disappears. Who is making this system? The creators who is training, who train the bees how to collect the things. And when it gives something, the honey, the products of the bees, when you consume, it's a healing. It is a medicine for us. We know the nutritious that is in the honeys. So then the examples comes to the pig also, or the other animal also. We cannot train a tiger to eat something. We can give him a lot of things, but he has his personal choice to eat. So the pig, by nature, the scientific community done a research. Yes, we give all lawful foods. Let it have the lawful foods. But by nature, it will eat the own excrete. So it excretes itself and it consumes the excrete. We say, look, we don't eat them. Because we know the nature of the animal by experimenting them. But we cannot change its nature. Because we are not controlling them. They have their own way of thinking, their minds, their behaviors. It has its own properties. So we say, look, Allah knows the best, God knows the best. We follow His commands. That is how we argue. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, because I'm not an expert on that field of analyzing the animal's behavior. Because there's a full chapter. In Germany, I know there's a veterinary university. They made a very thorough research on these subjects of the behavior of animals. And maybe you will find more research articles on that. As far my knowledge goes, this is what the scientific community have discovered. That this is an animal, by behavior, it will eat its own excrete. So we say there might be, this reason is not the prior reason. We give the other reasons also. So there are many reasons. We say, look, we forbid. The disease, stitchurasis. You can just Google it and see the impact and the diseases. is horrible, and people are now, the skin disease, tapeworm, there's a black in the skins, it will come like an umbrella, skin diseases. The female ova, if it goes to the blood vessels, it immediately causes the damages. If it goes to the eye, the female eggs or the meat from the pigs, it destroys the eyes. If it goes to the brain, it destroys the brain. So it has consequences, very vast consequences. Just search in the Google or in any scientific research journals. What is the impact of the flesh of the meat of the pork? You will find these are the only things, only animal. Some diseases are associated with cows and other meats, but not that much vast as it compares to the pork. So we say, look, there are other reasons also. I can give you 70 dread diseases, not by me, but WHO, 70. I am not an expert on the medical field. Otherwise, I would try to give you the names of all the diseases. 70 dread diseases associated with the pork meat, not by us, but by WHO, the authority on the field. And they made a resolution how to eat, even if you choose to eat it. So we say, leave it. I hope that I try to give the answer for the time. Thank you everyone for participating, and we wish all the best of you and your research also, and we would like to see a copy of that. Thank you very much. We can offer the Maghribs. Thank you, sister.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. You can offer the salah.
Yes, inshallah.